In the quaint town of Blackwood Hollow, nestled at the juncture of forgotten roads and dense, whispering woods, the hum of ordinary life masked its darker secrets. Only the most perceptive visitors noticed the unsettling charm of its main street, where storefronts suggested a faded glory and an unsettling veil lay over cheerful florists and the solitary bakery's offerings. It happened 3 months ago when Emily Winters, a local resident, vanished without a trace. Her disappearance left layers of unease draped over the town, though locals were oddly tight-lipped, as if voicing fears made them tangible. Emily was a journalist known for digging into the town's history, especially its eerie folklore, legends about the Whispering Pines, an old forest believed to ensnare souls and memories alike. Margaret, Emily's best friend and also a resident journalist, hadn't slept properly since Emily's disappearance. Margaret spent countless nights sifting through Emily's notes, searching for clues. Amongst the scribblings, one repeated phrase chilled her more than any chill of the wind outside. "The pines will whisper you away." Margaret's interest was piqued as she read through references about the forest paths that reportedly shifted and voices that called out malignantly familiar names. Determined to solve her friend's mystery, she armed herself with a flashlight, a notepad, and an iron resolve one late afternoon, heading toward the fabled woods. The townsfolk peered from behind curtains as she made her way, a subtle warning echoing in their avoidance of eye contact. It seemed they dared not tempt fate by acknowledging the endeavor or the place she was headed. Margaret approached the forest's border under an overcast sky, feeling the temperature drop with each advancing step. The trees loomed, sentinels of some ancient court, and the air around her became a palpable entity, seemingly denser, pressing in. She shivered, but not entirely from the chill. The silence was heavy, only punctuated by her own breath. As she ventured deeper down the narrow paths, each coated with leaves that crumbled beneath her feet, she began noticing peculiarities. A locket snagged on a low branch, torn pages from an obscure local history book scattered as though breadcrumbs. Each item was imbued with Emily's signature interest for things half forgotten. Margaret paused to examine a photograph pinned against the bark of a towering pine. It was a group shot, townsfolk on what appeared to be a festival day, and there was Emily, square in the center, yet curiously blurred as if caught mid-motion, a silent scream on her lips. The wind picked up, a low whistle that sounded almost like a distant murmur. Though unnerving, Margaret pressed forward, relying on her instinct that Emily had found something significant. Hours later, and deeper into the woods, Margaret's resolve waned as whispers surrounded her. She questioned the sanity of her quest. Her flashlight beam flickered over a clearing, revealing an odd assortment of personal artifacts laid in a circle: a compass, an ornate pocket knife, a rusted music box. Each object called forth a memory, a hushed voice, or an unfulfilled promise. Margaret couldn't ignore it. They all belonged to other people gone missing throughout the decades. In the center of this was a journal embossed with familiar initials, EW. Her heart raced as she picked it up, the leather supple and cold. It opened effortlessly to a shadowy entry. "I see them, glimpses between bark and branch. Their eyes, hollow, pleading, guardians yet prisoners of the pines." As she closed the journal, an eerie chuckle echoed from the shadows. She froze, urging her senses to rationalize. The noise was repeating, a loop, perhaps? Or was it the wind? Yet it felt too structured, synchronized with the haunting beauty of the landscape. Then abruptly, the air felt alive with panic. Margaret's instinct screamed for her to leave the sinister theater of the clearing. She turned back, the solid thump of her pulse dictating her every move as she scrambled over root and rock. The forest was changing around her, paths twisting like a serpent slithering intentionally. The only light was the waning twilight, casting everything in a monochrome dreamscape. Just as her strength began to wane, Margaret spotted the amber glow of streetlights through the trees. Relief washed over her until a familiar voice, raw, anguished, called her nickname from deeper within the woods. Against her better judgment, she hesitated, heart pounding with immediate recognition. It sounded like Emily, but reason severed emotion quickly. The wicked cleverness, the lure of that voice, it was all wrong. Bursting onto the road with ragged breath, Margaret collapsed against the familiar coolness of brick beside the old bakery. The night was soothingly baleful compared to what she had experienced in the woods. Passers-by cast curious but fearful glances. Nobody spoke, but their eyes said it all. "Good, you're back," mostly. The town resumed its shadowy vigil as she rose and started homeward. Margaret knew the cost of returning empty-handed, but intact from the forest was something she might never fully comprehend. The tales were true, the chills warranted, the forest harbored restive elements, and whispers indeed might never release their hold on Emily. Days later, with the journal secured beneath her pillow, Margaret's dreams were plagued by the cryptic sounds of the forest, the echoes of her own name intertwined with Emily's. The town persisted as a mosaic of silence and superstition, stitching its fabric with whispers of cautionary tales about those places where paths shift and pines whisper. And somewhere, always just out of sight, a shadow watched from the tree line, part of the fabric pressed between time and yearning, a sentinel, a seeker caught between home and nowhere. Blackwood Hollow sheltered its mysteries, but Margaret now held its heartbeat, a chilling, whisper-thin thread leading not just away from the forest, but back into it. Margaret contemplated the journal each night, knowing one day the pull might be too great, that the forest would call her back. Until then, she lived as a guardian of shadows, tethered by choice, yet forever haunted by the legend she had dared unmask. The quaint town endured silently, its stories an eternal whirl of rumor, legend, and misfortune.